Nuts have a genuinely good track record, and the people who eat them regularly tend to do better. That is the honest headline. Nuts are a small food with a surprisingly strong body of research behind them, and while I want to be careful not to oversell anything, the picture here is reassuring. So let me walk you through what we actually know, including one myth that keeps people away from nuts for no good reason, the idea that they will make you gain weight. Let me start with what the evidence shows. The strongest research on nuts is really about overall health, and inside that, there are some encouraging cancer-specific signals. When researchers follow large groups of people over many years, a regular nut habit keeps showing up alongside lower overall mortality, and that includes lower rates of dying from cancer. It is a consistent pattern across a lot of people, and there is one finding I think is worth sitting with. In an analysis drawn from a clinical trial population, people who had already been treated for colorectal cancer, the survivors who regularly ate tree nuts had lower recurrence and better survival. I want to be honest about what that is. It is an association, not proof that the nuts themselves did it, and I am keeping it qualitative on purpose. But it points in a hopeful direction, and it is the kind of thing that makes nuts worth putting on your plate rather than worrying about. So why might nuts help? When you look at what is actually inside a nut, it starts to make sense. You get healthy, unsaturated fats, fiber, plant protein, vitamin E, magnesium, selenium, and polyphenol antioxidants. That is a lot of good company in one small handful. One of the quieter benefits is what nuts do for your blood sugar and your insulin. They help keep both of those steadier, and that matters, because high insulin is part of the way that carrying excess weight can raise cancer risk in the first place. So, a food that helps steady that background chemistry is doing you a subtle favor, meal after meal. Now let me deal with the calorie myth, because this is the thing I hear most often. A lot of people avoid nuts because they are calorie dense, and they assume that means weight gain. The research actually says the opposite. Despite being calorie dense, nuts are not associated with weight gain, and they may even support weight control. There are a few reasons for that. Nuts are genuinely filling, so they take the edge off your hunger. Some of the fat in a whole nut is not fully absorbed by your body, so you do not take in every calorie on the label. And when you reach for a handful of nuts, you are usually displacing something worse, the chips or the cookies that would have been in your hand instead. So if fear of weight gain has been keeping you away from nuts, I would gently let that fear go. Which brings us to the practical question, how many should you eat and what kind? The simple answer is about a small handful a day, which is roughly 1 ounce. You do not need to weigh it out or overthink it. A handful is a good mental picture. Go for variety, because different nuts bring different nutrients, so mixing it up gives you the fuller spread. Walnuts, almonds, pistachios, whatever you enjoy, they all earn their place. I would steer you toward unsalted and minimally processed, so you are getting the nut and not a heavy load of added salt or sugar or oil on top of it, and that is really the whole prescription. A modest, regular, everyday habit, not a big dramatic change. I think that is the part I most want you to hold on to. Nuts are not a treatment, and no single food prevents cancer on its own. But this is a genuinely good food with a good track record, one that fits into an ordinary day without any fuss. A small handful, most days, unsalted, a bit of variety. It is one of the easier, calmer things you can do for yourself, and the evidence gives you real reason to feel good about it rather than guilty. So if you have been standing in front of the nuts wondering whether they are worth it, I hope this settles it. Reach for the handful,